Hello, everybody. Welcome to Spiritual Soul Center. Thank you so much for tuning in. I so appreciate you joining and sharing these beautiful experiences with us. We've had a lot more support on the channel recently, and I'm just so grateful. I'm just so grateful for all the energy, all the love, all the comments, the feedback, all the support. It's just been so wonderful. I'm so excited to see you all in Manchester at Mark's event and in Morocco, of course. It's just so exciting. So, we've got some beautiful things coming up. But first of all, today, let's just zone in and be really present and really grateful in this moment. I've got a beautiful friend of mine. We connected via Instagram. She shared the most beautiful, wonderful, raw, authentic videos. I just felt such a calling to her from just seeing her be so vulnerable and just so honest and so in her inner child. So the things I was experiencing at that moment and not knowing how to navigate publicly, she was just owning that and really stepping in that. And it was just such a beautiful thing. So I reached out and we connected in, had the most beautiful little Zoom calls and just like laughing and connecting, the most wonderful chats. And I really wanted to involve her in the spirit team. Obviously, she's got her own wonderful, amazing things going on individually. She just had a location move from Canada back to her hometown in Turkey. So it's beautiful. But yeah, so I'll stop me rambling on and I'll bring her in on the scenes. But we've got today the beautiful Duygu. I hope I pronounced that right because we've been practicing that. I've been like, how am I going to get this right? And I hope we got it right. And she's the most beautiful emotional alchemist, working with all things inner child, all things in the inner soul. And we're going to bring on today, have some divine activations, tell you about some project work that we're going to be bringing in, and just really activate your souls, get you all laughing and get everything aligned. So without further ado, I shall bring her into the energy field and say hello. And hopefully we can.
Hello.
Beautiful. So yes, so we're so excited. And we noticed just before we came on the most beautiful angel wings at the back. So we've got the energy set right. We've set the protection, the intention for the session. So it's just going to be a most wonderful divine session. And I'm just so excited for everyone to kind of really get to know you, and also for my team members, my best friends, my business partners to be able to actually put a face, because I'm always like, oh, my friend that I'm always doing. They're like, oh, yeah, yeah. So it's really beautiful to see the connection together, and hopefully for everybody to meet you and see what you're about, and just kind of let everyone know where you're at and what you're doing. And I'll hand that baton over to you now. I'll let you give us a little bit of a speak and just kind of let us know who you are, where you're at, where you've come from, and what you're about in this journey of awakening, really.
Thank you, Anya, for allowing this platform to then just be and express and do all those things that we're meant to do on this journey, which is to venture and go on this adventure. My name is Duygu Nankar. I am a conscious child therapist as well as like a consciousness like enthusiast. I really love doing all things related to knowing what our power is and our inner strength is and how that's going to come to fruition, because more than anything, in this lifetime, if I've learned anything outside of conditioning, is that once we tap into who we are and how we're really meant to divinely be presented in alignment in this present moment, in this timeline, etc., I find that there's some beautiful magical moments that come through, and that required me to tap into my inner child. It required me to tap into all of that. I would like to say that I was born in Canada, and coming to Turkey was like a huge quantum leap journey, and that in and of itself is fascinating because my Turkish isn't as great as my English. In fact, I struggle so much. I love expressing, I love being, and I'm in this situation and scenario that's like, ooh, I'm not able to express myself, hence using parts of my brain that aren't even knowledge based. It's just something so completely different. It's
Yeah.
all just energy.
And let's just tap into that there for 1 second, because what you've just said is so crucial for so many people that might not necessarily be in the physical language barrier of not being able to express themselves, but in a
Mm,
place of being around people or being in workplaces or vibrational energy where they cannot express themselves. And
mm,
your raw and authenticity of navigating through this journey may be just so crucial to what they need at this time in their like navigation process through how do I express myself in an environment where that's not easy to do. And I'm not, I'm the most I'm quite confident person, but some people are not, and some people are not able to to express that, like we were saying earlier, them deeper lower chakra emotions via the throat chakra. And it is so important now to be able to give others that might not have the most confidence, the most comfortability, them tools and maybe the things that we use to navigate through them journeys. So let's just go a little bit into that if you're comfortable
Okay.
on how you navigated through this journey at this time,
Yeah.
kind of tools and things you use to navigate.
Definitely. So I feel like there's a couple of things. I think we tie confidence to the way someone presents themselves. And I'm going to tell you like the most funniest thing ever. My whole life, I've won awards. I've like been on stage winning
Yeah,
these, receiving these awards, looking like I'm receiving it well, looking like
privately.
I'm
I
recipients of
understand
those
that.
awards.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And along that process, having complete imposter syndrome inside, being like, I
Oh,
don't deserve any of
you're
this.
speaking to me. You're speaking to my inner soul. I feel that. I know
And
what
so
you're doing.
I love you so much.
The whole years of singing and everything, like, such confidence on stage, but then the inner insecurities and the inner self-doubt. And I really had to navigate the difference between self-confidence and
Yep.
self-worth, and that
Ooh,
was the biggest thing for me. Like, I
excellent.
had loads of confidence, but not
Mhm,
a lot of self-worth. And that was
mhm.
so important for me to navigate. So you've hit on a really important thing
Oh,
there.
that's so perfect. Well, I think we've heard the whole saying, "Fake it until you make it," and I
Mhm.
think that what that brings up to me is embodiment, right? Can
Yes,
I authentically embody this?
yes, yes,
Or
girl.
am I just faking it? And like one thing that I'm just really good at is noticing when someone is not able to authentically embody something because there's something off about what they're saying, the way they're presenting, the words that are coming off, and the vibration that I'm feeling as a result of the impact, right?
Yeah.
And so when I'm in that space of like, oh, whoa, there's something that's not adding up, is that judgment or criticism on my end? No, because I've had the ability to actually discern, oh, I'm
Yes.
picking up on something. Now, does that mean I need to do anything? No.
No. Acknowledgement, acknowledgement. Yes,
And so, or do I need to communicate anything? No. That being
yes.
said, being an empathic and compassionate soul, am I going to do things to allow that person to offer this experience in a way that's a lot easier for them? Fuck yeah.
And maybe communicate a way in which, sometimes as we're navigating this journey as empaths going through that journey of self-worth, yes, again, going back, we have confidence, but then navigating that journey with self-worth, it's almost like we have to assert boundaries and we have to change the dynamics of our relationships and family relationships and friendships and really learn to assert new boundaries and new dynamics in them bonds that respect our boundaries. And in terms of doing that, it's about being respectful and honest and open, but also mindful of the way in which we are communicating our needs, but making sure that our needs are being communicated first and
Okay,
foremost.
let's
That's
talk
so
about
important.
that
Yeah,
because that means we're taking responsibility. And like
yeah.
that word even sounds really boring and annoying, and our inner teen wants to immediately fight it. And I get it. Let it fight it for a little bit,
Yeah,
let it. And then also, what's going to happen is that when that inner teen actually acknowledges what that means, then it's going to actually become your biggest cheerleader. So in this case, what did you just say? Energy just changed in front of me, and I completely just lost my.
no, don't worry. So
Maybe
we will talk about. I do this all the time. It's because we have constant downloads coming
I'm
in.
like
So when we have the
backtracking.
constant downloads, how can we keep up? We was going into the oh god, it's gone from
Taking
me
full
now.
responsibility, the word
Yes,
responsibility, that's where it came from.
that's it.
Okay, so when we're
Yeah,
taking responsibility, what that means is we can't really take responsibility for anything outside of us. This is a
yeah,
given. I mean, we've learned it. This is a part of all of our journeys. And if you're someone that's like, I'll prove you wrong, please do. Please go on your
yeah.
journey. Please learn exactly as you need to,
So
because
passionate.
that's the exact activation you need is the I'll prove you wrong. And it's like, and I'm not saying it in a spiteful way. Please go ahead. It's like,
No,
no,
it's
please
almost like
learn.
watch me. I always used to say it from people that
Yeah,
like, no, you can't do it that way. I'm like, watch me, bitch, because
exactly.
I always would find it, and sometimes it was actually harder. But the ego in me was like, yeah, but I'll just show you, And I've stopped doing that
Exactly.
now. But it is that inner teen,
Exactly.
that rebellion that's like, no, I'll find my own way. And despite
Mm,
it being harder, I did always find my own way. And that's the
mm,
point, we can always create a new pathway, always. But sometimes
totally.
there is support and there is guidance and there is other people that are out there to help, which is kind of where you come
The
in and we
journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's just a part of it. Like, because what you're doing, what has just happened is that the other person has now activated you. Maybe it's
Yeah.
come through a trigger, but you get to
Mhm.
choose whether that trigger is a trigger,
Mhm.
an annoyance, or it's
Woo!
an
So
activation.
good. Yeah,
So
that's so
as
good.
as you're on this journey, what we need to take like it's like shoulds and coulds and like could be's and like all of these like you have to's needs
Yeah.
like fine whatever, it's not that great to like hear. Let's talk about it in terms of like our earthly like experience in this
Mhm.
very multidimensional state that we're in, right? So in this
Yeah.
earthly experience we need to have the scenario of like essentially understanding that when we take responsibility of ourselves, that means I'm taking responsibility for the words I speak. I'm taking
Mhm.
responsibility for my actions. Like there's a
Mhm.
reason as to why I'm doing things. I'm taking responsibility for my thoughts. I'm taking responsibility for my impact. And that last part has been the biggest part of
Yeah.
my journey right now. My
Yeah.
impact. If I don't realize what my impact is, then why the fuck am I doing what I'm doing?
Exactly. Exactly that. Exactly that. So
Like,
important.
what is the purpose? Exactly. So, when we're in that space of taking responsibility for our impact, that's when we realize, ah, shit, this is the way I land. And, like, on this journey, if I choose to land in a way that is authentic, in a way that really gets across, in a way, maybe, let's use your Aries sun sign, Anya, and like use it as a way of like, the Aries, the shadow elements of Aries is I need to do this and I'm going to tell you, and like it's like push and force and action. And
Yeah.
Aries isn't Aries the youngest in the zodiac?
I'm not sure. Probably knowing me.
I think it is. And so, because it's the youngest in the zodiac, it's more going to be childlike. And childlike means when there's a thought, there's an immediate action that follows it. There's like, or not even a thought, like there's an impulse and then there's an action. There's no thought in between because it's just
Yeah.
action based. Children learn through action and
Oh.
navigating curiously through their environment. They learn that when I
And
drop,
that is
like
how I
push
learn.
this,
Yeah.
oh, 100%. Oh, that's
Like,
perfect.
try and
Oh, thank
talk
you
to
for
me. If someone like talks to me, I'm like, yeah,
that.
but I don't understand. Like, can't you just show me what you're doing? If you show me, I'll be able to do it. I'll just watch it, observe
Mm.
it, and participate. But if you're telling me these words, it's going in and out. I don't understand.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that really, I learned that in uni a lot. Like when I was actively doing the work or actively engaging in a debate about a certain topic, that helped me retain that information so much more than actually just learning it from a book or reading a certain case study.
Yeah.
So that really did. Become relevant to me. But just going back there a little tiny bit,
Mhm.
scooting back forward a little
With
bit
the impact.
to when we was talking, yeah, the impact as well, but also like gathering up almost like a little bit of bullet points for people as they're navigating
Mhm.
through that. So we've got like the responsibility and taking ownership of
Mhm.
your own boundaries and how you want to be spoken to and treated, but also then your
Mhm.
impact on others as they're framing that. But then I
Yeah.
suppose what ways have you kind of navigated through not being able to express yourself fully and clearly and
Well,
openly? And how
well, I
how
think
would you kind of express that to others?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I just said I think, and I'm gonna change that to say I feel. Um,
Yes.
I feel like those moments where I wasn't able to express myself has propelled that like moment of understanding. Ah, I understand what my impact is, and so I kind of like reverse engineer it because that's sort of how my mind works. Is
Okay.
that I went from like, okay, so this situation is not working
Yep.
to how am I going to make it work? And the way that I'm going to make it work is by allowing it to land in a way that is good to me and
Beautiful.
allows like almost like it feels like the yin yang, right? Sometimes the things that
Yeah.
I say are not going to feel good to people, but do I need
Mhm.
to say it? Fuck yeah.
But the
Um,
result, yeah, oh god, you hit so much of a nail on what I say. Sometimes I'm like, listen, it's, my friend jokes. They go, you're all spiritual, love and light with a little bit of roadman on the side because you're like, listen, your fucking chakras are in line. Sit down and we'll balance it because sometimes it needs to be developed, like received and delivered
mm,
with
mm,
importance and a different tone that's not, oh, I'll victim mode you, I'll support your sympathy for this moment.
no.
No, we need you to get the understanding, take the message and move from it. So that's why sometimes it does have to be direct, but it comes from a place of love. And Trisha
Well,
and Claire will know this from the last time we was on, and Trisha delivered a really brutal love bomb to Claire, and it was all like we was all like, oh no, but it was with a place of love, and you know what? She needed it, and that's the point. It's so beautiful,
oh,
and
no,
sometimes it comes from a place of love, but it's received, and the impact
yeah,
of that is. is standoffish and defense mode, and that's natural and normal. But then once they've had the kind of review on that and the time to process that, they then understand and see the clarity of why that was delivered in that way and why it was necessary.
100. Well, and I think, okay, so having gone from the place of reverse engineering it and then being like, okay, the way I want to come off, the way I want to appear really comes down to self-worth. Because like, if I care, if I know what my value is in my interactions
Mm-hmm.
with people, then I'll already communicate that. And so communicating that, that's great. Shit comes up, right? So last week, I had two scenarios where friends from the past just projected their shit. And so I had to do a couple of things. First, I had to discern what is
Yeah,
mine and what is not
yeah.
mine.
Take responsibility for their own. Yep, yep, yep. And then
100.
the others. Yep, yep, yep.
And then I go into, okay, so like, what's not mine? I'm like, well, that's a lot not mine. So I really want to throw it back to you and like burn all the bridges and like cause havoc in hell up in like my
The
paradise.
little inner child going, please let me just ruin everything.
Fuck you and your motherfuckers you. Um, but then I realized like, that doesn't feel good in me in that
Yeah,
moment. Yes, I
yeah.
might want to do it, but
But
it
it doesn't
does
create
not
the
feel
vibration we
good.
want to receive. We're
Yeah.
emitting out what we want to receive right now, and if we're emitting out that vibration, that's just not what we want to receive back in. So as you knew, we counteracted that, and you stopped that. I've had the same experience myself last week, so it's very
Mm.
relevant. Very
Oh
relevant.
my goodness. So in those two situations, then I went from extreme end of like burn everyone to the other extreme of like, you know what, just let it go. Don't say
Yeah,
anything. Everything will work out. Karma will decide their fate, etc. And then I was just like, oh,
that doesn't feel right
yes,
either.
okay. I want to do that. And you know what? Maybe there'll be a point in my life where I do that. I
You
don't know.
can,
Maybe is
but
that the goal? I don't know.
no, I don't know. I think on certain scenarios, I reckon you probably could do that, but there's certain situations where there's energy and almost like a karmic balance almost that needs to be brought to the surface and needs to be acknowledged between them two souls or between the way that person is behaving in their life and you were chosen as the vessel to bring that to the surface. So I do believe that in certain circumstances, if it was someone you wasn't really connected to, didn't have an emotional connection with, you would be able to go, you know what, send your love and light and off you go on your way. But because you're in a continued contractual relationship with this soul to have to kind of maintain that balance, it means that it's almost a longer process. So it's about finding a way to communicate the human's needs and express what the human needs to articulate, but then also working on a higher level of understanding as a higher perspective why they're doing that and why they're acting in that way and why they're behaving, of them actions. So I think it really depends on the personal circumstance of what's going on at the time and the relationship with that soul. It's the soul contract. Are you meant to bring up that to the surface for them to learn? Are you not for other people because that's not their purpose? Are they not ready to receive that at that time? Do we just
100.
work on an intuition based level like that?
And I think it's also important to acknowledge that there's spiritual ego when you're like, oh, I'm going to tell them because there's a lesson they have to learn.
Yes, and that's a difference. That's a difference, totally difference. Yeah, yeah. Are they even
Because
ready?
oh,
Yes.
100. Yeah, yeah, exactly. 100%. Also, like, are you the person to do that? Like,
Mm,
like,
yeah.
are like sometimes
Because
you're not.
usually you don't think about doing it. Usually it's just a situation that's created and emotions, and it's just that you don't sit there and think, right, I'm gonna go show this person a lesson by bringing. That's an intentional trigger, and that's not what we're here to do. Yes, we might trigger people, but it's not an intentional thing. It's not, yes, I'm gonna go into this session to break this person down and trigger all their insecurities. No, no, no. It's about, okay, in my personal opinion, like we were saying earlier, what I do is identify the root. So sometimes it might mean I get over the bit of bullshit that you tell yourself that you're all fine and you're all not working out of trauma, and I identify where the trauma is surfacing in your life to then be able to rewire that programming and bring that up into their consciousness understanding. But that's completely different to forcefully triggering something that's not even ready to be processed in the conscious or subconscious for that matter. So it has to be of a divine alignment between the two higher souls, the intuition, and I suppose when you work with source or with higher beings and like guides and things like I do, it's almost like an inner knowing. This comes up a lot where you'll be doing a reading and you'll get information, but they tell you they can't handle that. That's for you to know to work for them. You don't
Yeah.
tell them that. You've got to navigate the session that'll meet that need without telling them that that's what you're doing, because their higher self's telling me they can't handle that on a human level. So it's about having that discernment, as you were saying, between what's that going to impact them and can they handle that.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, like I am human for a reason. I'm not like I am not the higher frequency and vibrational embodiment in this lifetime on this planet Earth. I'm not. So I am meant to have those human experiences. I'm meant to fuck up. I'm meant to make mistakes. I'm meant to say things, and then in that realization, in that moment, to also be like, whoa, my bad, because we have that ability to do things in real time. That's why time is a thing on this earth. It's
Yeah.
meant to teach us things at such a slow pace, at such a like painstakingly so, like
Mm.
snail's pace, because that's exactly where the learning and the integration happens. And
Mm-hmm.
so in that moment where I'm like, okay, discern, is it mine or not mine? Okay, second,
Yeah.
it's not mine. How do I communicate
How do
this?
I respond to it? Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. How do I? Because the threat
First of
needs to
all,
be
protect the
activated.
energy field.
That's a good point. I wasn't gonna even say that. I was gonna be like,
That's number one. That's step number one.
and then there's a moment of communicating just the facts, right?
Yes, 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 yes. And
Whatever
acknowledging
those
the fact
facts are.
too. Yes,
Exactly, exactly.
yes.
Because then you set the precedence of like what's actually
Mhm.
happening, and then to communicate how you feel about that. And it doesn't have to be that you did this and this is how you made
No,
me
no,
feel.
no, no.
In
Yeah,
fact, if you stop using the you word, like pointing to the other person,
yeah.
then it'll
Blame.
really facilitate a more easier conversation around that. And then comes the moment of like, okay, now I have to communicate some hard truths.
Yeah,
And what that means. And it really does require having had already processed the emotion in order to have communicated it. And
and coming
sometimes it
from
requires in the moment, and that's okay.
yeah.
Sometimes in the moment you're processing it, and that is totally cute, cool. But
Mhm.
if you've had no experience of it, process the emotion before you go
Yeah.
through it with them. Already have forgiven them.
Mhm.
Knowing that once you've forgiven them, it does not mean you need to continue to be in relations to them. In fact, you can be communicating, hey, listen, this is the case. And then next steps, always communicate next steps, right? Like, what do
Go
next
back
steps
to the, yeah, like
mean?
what's the goal? What's the aim? It's great to bring up the emotions that are in the surface. Like I think that's so important. But then also having, right, you either want to separate, you either want to bring something forward, you either want to change the behavior, like what is the outcome of what you're aiming to have. And it's so important what you were saying. I was picking up on a few things there because I made a video this morning on time not existing. And I think that was so important as well because it was all about kind of, I think you're so right, of the kind of three-dimensional earth we had to go through. Like, I always joke about things that what I've experienced that took me 5 years to get that consciousness understanding is taking people like 5 days, 5 minutes, And I always joke like, God, if it were that easy for us. And it's the thing, you are so right on that human level, on that three-dimensional level, we had to process them emotions at such a slower pace and such a human pace. And that integration now between that higher consciousness being and being able to process and shift out trauma and on almost an instantaneous level and being able to bring that into the human dimensional level now, kind of integrating them two levels together.
Yeah.
I think it's so important because as we're going through this shift in consciousness, this shift in humanity to that shift in higher dimension, obviously we're losing that heavy dimensional energy of time, then restrictions of time, and the what's the word, the perception, the constraints, the construct of time. So I think that's so important to navigate. Like, make the concept of time work for you. You know,
Yeah.
there is no rush, there is no time limit, there is no schedule, there is no they're higher up than me, they're at a different level than me. Everyone is exactly where they're meant to be on their own personal healing journey. And it's really about not being in comparison or reflection or in race, not being in competition with each other to get anywhere sooner. Really just being the embodiment of the moment and the presentness of the energy that's rising, because the more time we focus on getting there, getting to that next destination, the less time we're actually spending on processing the current emotion that's coming up. So I think that's really important to kind of have acknowledgement on that there is no schedule to this and there is no balance of this. Time does not exist in the way we have been led to believe. It is almost like a restriction, a burden that's been put in place, and it's about making the schedule and perception of what we see as time work in our favor, and using affirmations and things to work with that. So I think that's really important. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I
Yeah.
can't remember what else there was. Do you have anything else to add on that little topic there?
Yeah. I feel like you do such a great job of like recapping it because you're right. I do say a lot.
But it's good. It's good. It's
Which
just
is,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So I think in that process of then like communicating it, it's important to acknowledge that that throat activation that's happening, especially the first like 5 to 25 times. In all honesty, some people can do it like immediately after the first time, and that's
yeah,
beautiful.
but
But
sometimes it
the
takes longer.
reality,
Yeah,
exactly. Knowing that your voice, like in real time, you're getting biofeedback into your body, being like, "Whoa, that's not the tone of voice that I wanted to use," or "I don't sound as strong," or the way that this is all kind of like flowing isn't the way that I thought it would. And know that that's all biofeedback into the body, just like how activations work. When someone has activation codes, they're speaking pure channel. What's happening is that that combination of words, regardless of what you're doing, if you're taking notes, you being fully present is allowing for the actual activations to penetrate your body and your DNA, because the purpose of those activations is that when your DNA hears it. Like, what do scientists say? There's about 70% of your DNA is junk DNA, which just means they have no way to measure what the fuck it is because
yeah,
they
yeah,
don't
yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
tools.
They don't have a clue.
They're still stuck in like the DNA strand is the DNA strand two stranded or three stranded in this earthly? I don't even know anymore.
Well, it's meant to be 12 grams, isn't it? The full, and look at that. I can't even show. Let me try and show everyone. The screen is DNA
I
activations.
love
Can you
it.
see that?
I love it. Oh,
Can
perfect.
you even make that up? But yeah, so
Perfect.
it's
You
12
can't.
strands
You
is
can't.
meant to be. I think they say it's like six. If I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
But I know
I don't even think scientists have even got there. I think
oh,
scientists are only at two
I have no
because
idea.
like it's just a double helix.
Mhm.
Anyways, so it being a double
Yeah, you're
helix,
right.
sorry, let's just go back to DNA period, right?
Yeah,
Like I'm just thinking science 101, but DNA period, once that this part of your journey comes into this like realization, because time does a real funny thing, right? You need to have had so much experience and then come to this point in your life to have that activation, and what that
yeah,
requires is
yeah.
your full presence, and that's it.
Yep.
That's it. Full presence, and then all
Not
of a
about the
sudden what
time
happens?
spent, it's about the experience learned and the place in which you are at in your emotional journey. You could have got there from 5 years, 5 minutes,
Yeah,
5 days, 5 months.
yeah,
It's all about the measure of your own growth within. That's why I always say stop looking without for the answers and look within, because that's the faster you'll go.
yeah,
100%.
exactly. Oh my God, yes. Thank you for mentioning the emotional part because it does require a certain level of emotional intelligence to get to that space.
Mm-hmm.
Like
That
it
does.
really does. And then
It does.
once you're at that space,
Emotional
then it's
awareness.
like, yep,
Yes.
yep.
Yep.
Okay. So then DNA, you've got the code. You're being present. DNA is activating, or sorry,
Yep.
the code is activating your DNA. What
Yep.
that means is that your simplified, right? Like your DNA goes from like off position to on position. And then what
Mm-hmm.
happens is that all of a sudden protein starts to get produced. That protein that produces enzymes, that produces literally like I was just going to say a circadian rhythm, but it's not even circadian
Ooh,
rhythm. That's interesting if that's
that's
connected
a fancy
though,
word. Yeah, that's a
because
word.
light, circadian rhythm is like light and dark, right? Fascinating.
Very interesting. Light and shadow.
Exactly, because in the eye, you've got light that goes into your eye, hits your retina, hits the back of the wall of your eyeball, and that's essentially where um, information gets turned on. Interesting. Okay, so go back to it gets turned from off to on. As soon as it's on, cascade ripple effect happens into the body. So you don't need to be writing notes. You don't need to memorize shit. Like that's a very old
Mm-hmm. Three-dimensional
tradition
way of
that has
learning.
been created exactly in our education systems and the way that we've been taught. And that
Yeah,
linear education, which is the way we've been taught, which is very slow. It's like so
yeah,
slow.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We know how like children work as sponges, and we teach children that well, like you are only a sponge at the age of 2, and then after that, like what happens? Like
No,
you're
bullshit.
a rag,
Bullshit.
a dirty rag. I don't know, right? And so
That's a great analogy, that one.
I don't
What
even
happens
know.
after that? You're a dirty rag.
So what I really bring forth, and this is where me being an advocate for the child, the inner
Yeah,
child, that
Yeah, I was
ability
looking
to
forward to that. Yeah.
express, right? That's where I'm like, oh, interesting. So we went from linear education to like, what's the next quantum education? Because what
Yeah.
quantum education says is here's a bunch of information that's set out in front of us. Now you decide how to make that connection because that's how the connection in your brain is made, how the synapses in your brain is made. When you hear one type of information 3 times, it strengthens that connection,
Yes.
that synapse in the brain. And you just need to hear it like a few more times in order for you to be like, oh, yeah, I heard that somewhere. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that really facilitates my learning in this other area or whatever. And so knowing that, making that connection on our own, just like kind of like you can have someone tell you the stove's hot, don't touch it. The stove's hot, you don't touch it. You're going to learn the first time, especially when you hurt yourself, that the stove is fucking hot. You're not going to touch it again
Yeah.
even when it's not on.
No, my dad used to do a great way of like teaching me. He used to be like, Anya, I'd be like, Dad, can I go walk on that wall? And he'd be like, well, you can go walk on that wall, but if you fall off it, you're gonna die, and or you might hurt yourself, or they might, if you look at the wall and you see how far it is underneath, and you see there's concrete and there's a big drop. So if you slip off that wall, that's the consequence of the action. Do you still want to make that choice? And I'd look
Excellent.
at him and go, all right, thanks. So it was the freedom to choose, though, the freedom of my inner child to choose, to not
Mm.
be felt like, well, no, you can't do that. But why, why? Because then I'd have probably rebelled and gone and done it anyways, and then
Yeah.
become in a dangerous state because that's what my parents learned. I was that kind of child. The second you said no, you can't go drinking, I'd just sneak off with my mates and get absolutely arseholed in the back.
Like,
Someone's
please,
like,
bye.
right? And then they learned from that. They was like, right, okay, we probably need to take a better approach with this child. So, and that's the thing. My dad really had it locked down in understanding. Like, give them the choice. Give them the choice to choose. Show them the consequences of their actions
Uh-huh.
if they want to choose that path, and let them choose. And I was like, oh, and then most
Okay.
90% I chose the right path.
Yeah, true, 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 true. So that's interesting because you're a generator in human design. So
Mhm.
I'm guiding this course, and I'm saying it's guiding because I'm by no means a professional or an expert, other than being a child therapist and offering the insight for this conscious parents program, which I've just like name changed into say that it's a conscious children's wisdom course.
Ooh,
There's a lot of parents that are on board. And so what I've realized when you incorporate human design into this concept is that all of a sudden, for you being a generator, Anya, when your parents give you yes or no questions, then that really works for you. That's
yeah.
like, okay, so I'm gonna lay it all out for you. Do you still want to do it? Yes or no? Yes, that's gonna work for about 70 to 80% of children, and that's
Mhm.
beautiful. It's not gonna work for the rest of the children like me. So I'm a manifester, and I had this huge realization this morning, this rising, because I'm not mourning anything. But essentially had this realization that when I got told asked yes or no questions, it didn't allow for my experience. So in human design, I'm a 6/3, which means I'm an adventurous explorer or something along those lines.
Mine
Which
said
means
6'10", I think. So
what are you?
6'10", I think.
No, there's no 10. It can
Oh,
only
then
be
I'm
up to
myself.
6.
I don't fucking know. Then I don't fucking know.
I
Sorry,
don't know.
go on.
We're gonna have to take a look at that after. Um, so it's 33 minutes, by the way. I just thought I'd like mention that number that just came to that realization. So for someone like me, I need to explore things. So I'm that kid that my parents actually, if they told me no, I would immediately be like, okay, well, like no just doesn't work for me, and I hate you now, so I'm just gonna go. And to ask me questions that aren't yes or no, but rather qualitative.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
I think there's a lag. I don't know if it's a lag on my end, but that was really funny to hear
Yeah,
your
it's
laugh.
cool.
And so, um, I love it. It's perfect. And so, for me, it would have been slightly different. All to say, that whole parenting process is such a cool process in and of itself because like I don't have any children, not at this moment anyways, and I have this
Mhm.
strong feeling that once I do, my child's going to trigger me, and because this comes from the premise of, and like any child, right?
Mhm.
Because this comes from the premise of, the children that are coming into this earth are really meant to help facilitate an evolution that is far more faster than us just doing the work on our own, separate from doing it with our children. Because
Yeah.
what's going to happen is that child is going to bring up your conditioning and your patterning so fast that, like, anything that is doing this, that isn't
Mm-hmm.
allowing for peace and resonance, is then going to create the necessary, like, self-awareness. And in that moment, what happens with people that are smaller than us, age-wise, like smaller than us, shorter even from us,
Mm-hmm.
or of which we think there's a hierarchy of which we think that they have
Mm-hmm.
lower status, we
Yeah.
immediately project on them. Immediately, it's a natural thing that's going to happen. If even if you have a healthy ego, it's a natural thing that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so it's really checking that in, right? Because in that moment
Mhm.
that you're not aware, you're going to project.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Projection's a very natural thing. It's not a bad thing. In fact, the concept of good and bad is a very two-dimensional concept in this three-dimensional world, and there's a purpose to it because of the spectrum. But if we
Mm-hmm.
have a broader, like, perspective of it, what happens to that 2D? All of a sudden we're like, oh wait, life and death are the same thing. And all of a sudden the perspective of, like, life or death is not this or
Not
that. It's the,
uh,
oh, interesting.
beautiful. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So that's so beautiful. So have
really
you got a
when we
call
can
soon? Do you have another call you have to get to soon?
um yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
good
So
timing.
I
Thank
just
you.
want
Thank
to,
you.
I remember Spirit telling me, they're like, this bitch gotta go. So I want you to just kind of let them all know what courses you offer, what courses you offer, what you do, where they can find
Yes.
you, like where you are, where they can find you,
Where
because
I'm
there's gonna be
at.
people that are gonna be connecting with you and wanting to get in touch through the courses that you're offering. And I'll just quickly tell them, me and this beautiful lady are wanting to kind of look at a intensive inner child healing activation breakthrough course. We haven't come up with the name yet, but it's along them lines. Maybe
Spiritual
like 3 sessions, a 3-day thing, 3 sessions, like an hour and a half long, of really going in, doing what I do, first of all, like going into the emotional roots, the traumas, the triggers, bringing them up to the surfaceness and the consciousness, and then handing over to this lovely lady that will then do the activations as well on the quantum level, and then bringing that all into one. And kind of, I mean, you can tell them yourself a little bit about what you'd be wanting to do on that as well. But yeah, just kind of working together in that sense to activate the inner child and release some of that trauma in more of a fast tracked, like intensive way for those that are ready to receive that kind of activation.
Yeah. I mean, the one biggest thing that I'd like to offer is that this is more than anything space holding. There's a lot of words that are thrown out: healing, activation, quantum, intuitive, whatever. And in all honesty, what that is, whatever part of that is activating to you or resonating to you, is what's calling for you, because it's already within you. And like anyone
Yeah.
that's been in this space for a while knows that it's not someone outside of you that is healing you, it's you healing yourself, offered through the space holding that this individual is holding for you. And so to be able to have both Anya and I be able to space hold, who have very different life experiences, live in different parts of the world, are different ages, professionally have done different things in your life. Like
Mhm,
I'm a decade older than you, Anya,
mhm.
and I'm saying that not as like I'm a decade older with more experience.
No,
Fuck
no,
that. No,
totally, totally understand.
there's moments where I'm like, you have had these activations happen at such a young age, and there's a part of us that starts to get jealous, right? And that jealousy is only an indication of, like,
Mhm.
admiration, really. And so it's
Oh,
just like, so I'll choose to do the admiration thing, right? Being like, holy shit, I'm so grateful that you've been able to do that,
love
because we
that.
can have a conversation that's on the same page. And so this is
Mhm.
really that opportunity that when you feel this calling, then, like, really just hop on it and follow that intuitive calling, knowing that it's going to do exactly what it needs to do,
Yeah.
knowing that whatever that financial investment is that we immediately get stuck in the 3D world, whatever that thing of like, oh, but I'm too busy is, or we have so many things that we say in this earthly existence And we say it for a reason. Whatever that is, it's really an opportunity to be like, oh, and it's not just inner child. Like, what I'll communicate what I do outside after this, but it's really this opportunity to be seen and reflected back you. Because
Yeah.
when you get reflected back you, that's biofeedback into your body, which is
Mm,
DNA activation, period. So when
beautiful.
you're ready for that, knowing that it's going to be from like fiery, and I'm a double Leo, Anya, you're in Aries with what's your moon and your rising again?
I have no idea. I forgot.
Okay, that's fine. Doesn't matter. We're fiery individuals, as you can tell by
Fiery girl over here.
literally. And so what we offer is this opportunity. What is fire? Transmutation, quick, fast, let's go. And so that's what we
Energy
offer.
busy. Yeah.
Exactly. And so if you feel the calling, reach out to us. The best way to reach me is honestly Instagram. It's probably been the easiest. And my Instagram is at conscious and then my name Duygu, Duygu. You'll put the information down,
I'll
Anya.
put it all in the bio. Yeah.
Definitely. And so, what I offer is really quantum intuitive sessions, which
Mhm.
until the end of October, I've got a special going on. So, let me know.
Beautiful.
And what quantum intuitive sessions looks like is essentially space holding for all of yourselves, inner child, inner teen, present self, higher self, and some of the quantum shifting that happens by just allowing your inner teen and your inner child and your present self to be seen for what they're meant to really offers this opportunity for connection to higher self, and then functional tools for you to continue that connection to your intuition, connection to your creativity, connection to your imagination through your inner child, right?
Mhm.
Subsequently, I was offering a lot of Turkish coffee readings, which I kind of want to open this now.
Oh
And
yeah, let's do
and
that.
Turkish coffee has been such a beautiful portal for me. And then also coming back to my ancestry and my DNA, right? Like, of course, it's a part of that. If this information is coming through, of course, I'd be coming back to Turkey to do all these things.
I love.
Um, and then thirdly, I host conscious children's wisdom programs that are 6 weeks long. We're 4 weeks and what it's called is up leveling for the future generations.
I
I've
love
got
that.
primarily parents involved, and some of the activations coming through are amazing. And if you want to still be involved, you can have access to the video links. It's like a guided lesson every week, and then a community call, which is an activation. So let me know if you're interested in this session or in the next round. And then the fourth one is I'll be coming out with intuition groups starting November, which is really an opportunity to offer your intuition this space of like, oh yeah, I got that gut feeling. Oh yeah, I forgot. And then how do you connect more to it?
That's so beautiful, and they can get in touch with you all, and also maybe leaving an email for those that don't have access to Instagram, just so that they can get in touch with you as well. That would be great.
Which
But
is
yeah, beautiful, fantastic. We did a swapsies for readings before, a wonderful session. So I'll let you do your little coffee reading because I'm excited to see what it says.
let's do it. So first of all, this looks like it's the start of a spiral, which is a portal, which is just so beautiful because it just seems like with Anya we always do that. Um,
Oh wait,
yeah. So a couple of things. More than anything, we're moving at a very fast pace, and like we're in eclipse season, so of course we're going to, right? And a part of that like movement of that energy, and like it's a big transformation. In fact, if I go like this, let me see if it comes out. It's not. It's hanging. It's hanging primarily because it feels like it's a very conscious decision to make that big transformation. So
yeah,
whether or not you choose to create that big transformation, or you choose to continue to do the old patterns, then it's going to create exactly what it needs to create. Now, as you're in that space of wanting that big transformation, it's the new moon on the 25th and the eclipse season. So new moon is all about emptying out and really offering a space of like emptiness to allow for the new. So get rid of shit in your house,
yeah,
get rid of things in your house.
yeah,
And then know that it's going to bring other stressful things up in your life, because it's not like all of a sudden you're getting everything you want, everything's going to flow. No, that's not what you signed up for on this. It's going to remind
sorry.
you, it's not what you asked for. Um, and also there's going to be a lot of connections of like peaks and valleys, right? So as
Yeah,
you're climbing that mountain, there's going to be treacherous like moments that are going to come up. The only constant is change. So knowing that there's going to be change is allowing for that adaptability to come. Now change in your ability to switch from thoughts is one. your physical ability to adapt to, and then third is your emotional ability to adapt. And your emotional ability to adapt, in my opinion, the emotions is mainly about first of all having emotional awareness,
Hmm.
then the ability to actually emotionally express,
Yeah.
then the ability to actually understand that there's emotional intelligence in all of this, and then
Yeah.
there's emotional fitness. And then emotional fitness is the area of which we're able to actually like practice how we're able to adapt in our emotions. And so that's what it's asking for. So it requires emotional awareness, then emotional expression, then emotional intelligence to then get to that space. So it's like, how are you practicing your emotions?
Of
Because
course.
emotions, motion is energy in motion, period, done. Okay.
Live, live. I'll just quickly read
44 minutes.
these little affirmation cards for the day for everyone, for you, for all of us, because I want to make sure you've got these as well. So we've got I am infinitely connected to my crystals. Each one has a role in my journey. Today I am gaining or working with crystal energy. So make sure you're setting your intention with your beautiful crystals, are picking why you're working with that one, setting a role. I've actually got a little green one that I've had out today. I'm thinking it's like a little worry stone or a little nervous stone because I've just been like, feeling calm. So I'm guessing
Nice.
it's just soaking up the anxiety, that anything that's left over there. So that's beautiful. So just setting your intention for which one's the which. Then we've got I am not affected by my past life trauma or emotions. This is a new life. Today I am relinquishing any trauma from the past. So that is
I just
so
got shivers there. I got shivers there.
activation. So really it's simple what it says on the tin. Make sure we're consciously acknowledging emotions that are coming up from this life in the past, from past lives, anything that's surfacing as emotion in us, dreams. Dreams are wild right now. I'm going to do a video separately in a minute about the dreams that are going on. So head over to YouTube for that as well. But yeah, to just kind of really be aware of what's coming up, writing it down, releasing it out, and not storing it in the inner vessel, making sure you're releasing. And how funny this ties in so well with your reading. My home is a temple. I deserve to live in a clean, healthy environment. My space is sacred. Today I am looking after my space. So it's so important for us to really declutter, get rid of anything that does not vibrate with our frequency, create something new in the home, create something personal to you, maybe do a painting, maybe freshen up the space, paint some walls, or just even have a rearrange of furniture, put a new throw on the couch, a new blanket, just spice it up a bit, light some essential oils, incense, things like that. Make it feel nice, make it feel sacred, and create a space for you. So that's so important to our linking in. And
Oh
the
my
final,
God, yes. Can
how
I just
funny.
add something to that? So there's
Yeah,
a feng shui fact in interior design that says even if you're not getting rid of something, maybe you're not in a place of being like, I want to get rid of things. That's okay.
that's
Move
fine.
three things either in the room or between rooms in your
Nice,
house. Just move
nice,
three
nice.
things. That's it. That's an easy thing to do.
Yeah, and I do that randomly sometimes. I'm just like, I'm gonna move that, I'm gonna move that crystal, I'm gonna move that over there. And sometimes you just do, so you don't need to like you say, you don't need to get rid of the whole thing. You can just have a bit of a revamp, a bit of a respice up the energy, reclaim it. That's the point in this. Reclaim the space, make it your energy again, get rid of any vibrations that do not match, and bring in the vibration that's at your true soul and make it match yours. So that's really beautiful. And the last one for today is I am so in tune and connected with my higher self. Today, I am taking guidance only from my higher self. So, with the time and the energy that's going on, as I've spoke about before, it's really hard to discern between spirit guides and spirit and loved ones. So, right now, maybe just be working with the true, authentic version of higher self, just so there's no miscommunication or um, manipulation, lack of better words, of energy into the auric field. So we have till we have full discernment, just be working with the higher self and actually getting into knowing that higher embodiment of self and tapping into noticing the shift between yourself when you're in your current human self and the higher self embodiment, and noticing the transitions between that, so that we can feel more connected and supported without needing external validation because we have it from within. So that's really important to kind of have that. Anything you want to add to that, my love?
No, you hit it so well on the head. And then also my call just got pushed and I was like, oh, that's amazing. I just made time, guys. Like I just made time in my day to like enjoy
Exactly.
the sunset. What? What?
Yeah.
What?
And that's the most
Like,
beautiful thing. Like, divine timing, just as we were saying, make time work for you. You know,
Yes.
there is
Yes.
no pressure, there is no time limit, there's no restrictions. Stop looking at it as a prison sentence. It's a construct that can work in our favor when blending with us. So it's really about just doing what we've just been speaking about, present embodiment. You
Mm,
know,
mm,
everything was kind of summed up today is just being really kind of in this acknowledgement of self, resonating and acknowledging what's coming up, reflecting on how you want to respond to that, how that's going to be received, and how we want to act on that. And then actually being so conscious and aware of the different parts of ourselves, inner child, inner teen, higher self, in this consciousness now, and being able to bring them back into the whole and feel united and collected in the one. And that's the whole
Th-
aim.
that's it. That's self-worth. That's confidence. That's it. Period. That's a period. That's me being period. Punctuate. That's
But no,
perfect.
I have had such a beautiful call today.
Thank
Honestly,
you.
it's been wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I will end the broadcast and then we can have a little chat afterwards, just 2 minutes, just to kind of clarify when we're going to be launching that new 3-day intensive
I'm
course.
so
'Cause that's
excited.
going else. We need to pick a little name for it and just kind of sort out all the
Um,
final details. Then it will
yeah,
be launching on the website. What day is it today? Monday. I'd say before, I mean, probably today, tomorrow, but let's just be realistic by the end of the week because I just don't want to put any
true,
pressure on it. So by the
true.
end of the week, it's launched on the website. So you can book in with us both. We'll navigate all the logistics towards that and the time differences and everything. But yeah, thank you all for joining today. I hope you've enjoyed this session. If you have
And,
anything else that you'd love this me and this beautiful lady to talk about, please drop it in the
yeah,
comments below or message us on Instagram any topics you want us to cover, and we will happily do that if it resonates with us. And know that we're both there for support. Anything you need, my spirit team, this lovely lady, we're all there. Just drop us a message and know that you're not alone in this journey, and there's so much light to be brought here. So so much love to everyone. Thanks for
and
joining.
thank you.
And
Thank you for your reflections. Thank you for seeing me.
no, thank you, darling. Right, I'll end the broadcast and then we'll have a quick chat so you don't go anywhere. Stay there. Thank you, guys. Love and light as always. Take care. Bye, beautiful.